So I just give you a synopsis of what today is going to look at. Uh, Today we are starting with US as a product of how the country is, how the education system is, what documents are required, followed by the application admissions training, followed finally by the visa training for the US. So again, welcome all of you for today's session. I think we are good to start now. So I will share my screen, and as discussed, we will take the US product training and then followed by the other sessions today. For those who know me, I am Nidhi Sharma. I am the product head for North America with Map My Study for past many years. I hold this position in the capacity to talk about US, Canada as study destinations. I have also been to these countries, so have hands-on experience for the travel and also the studies, classes, timetables, education, hostels. So at the end, maybe you can have those questions addressed also. We will just try and give you the best of what we have gained over these years of experience. In today's presentation, we are going to take you through USA and we'll talk about the basics of the country, the reasons for students choosing USA, the part-time rights, work rights, and also we'll talk about US education system a bit. We also would highlight that what's the distance between the major states, the time difference with India, and finally we will touch upon the OPT or the post study work visa rights with US. US, the regional map clearly tells us is divided into regions, which are the Northeast, which is the combination cities, which is New York, Massachusetts, etc. We have down south, which has Florida and Texas in it. We have Southwest, which would have parts of California, also Arizona. And then we have Northwest, which would cover the states which are Oregon, Washington, and Midwest, which is also a combination where Ohio, Illinois, etc. are there. Since US is geographically so big that students, parents, and families they look at combinations of various factors, right from the proximity of the state, also to the cost of living, and also the availability of the course, which we believe is the primary factor for choosing a university and the state. Moving on to the actual map for US. So the number of states are marked on the US map as the stars. So I'm sure everyone knows how many states are there. The different states which are marked here uh, are the combination where the universities are present. The East Coast broadly has New York, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, etc. Down south has Florida, Louisiana, Texas, and the Western Belt has California, Oregon, Washington. A lot of students select states on the basis of different factors which are appealing to them on personal choices. But we have seen students picking up California if they are more computer science oriented, since they have Silicon Valley, which has amazing job opportunities. People do select Texas, Florida, etc., because of the NASA, aeronautical engineering, and amazing jobs for computer sector as well. People do select New York and East Coast on the basis that they wish to have their life in finance or financial market. So those are the places they are happy to go. A lot of students also take mid of the US, which is Illinois, Indiana, or Ohio, or Missouri, since they are very, very cost effective and the universities present there are amazing in terms of the courses they provide, the faculties they have. So the whole US has a control system which is done state wise when it comes to education. And on the same basis, all the quality of education is maintained in the whole US. You could here very well see the size of the country on the map, which is the world map. It's been the third largest country in the world and the first in economy when it comes. US has North America. US is a part of North America, which is situated between Mexico to its south and Canada to its north. And in fact, US and Canada share the largest borders for exchange of goods and also the business, which is the largest coastal line between the two countries. And on top of everything, these two countries have amazing relationship. The education is given full consideration in either of the countries, so are the jobs. A lot of students would find American companies making their base in Canada, since the work opportunities in Canada are much better in terms of international students as they are in US. So there are easier permanent residency options and the jobs become easy to do. Moving on with the introduction a bit about the president who's just recently been elected and started the US as a president, Joe Biden. The monetary unit is American dollars. It moves or it is between 72 to 76 on an average. The English is one of the is the national language, but in parts of US, the Spanish, French is also spoken. But everything is English dominated, so one can make an easy way out. The population of US is around 33 crores, which is in comparison to India much less. But it's a land which is very vast, so the population is nicely spread up. We would find the areas in the East Coast, which is New York, Massachusetts, densely populated. So is California, but the areas in the Midwest they are scarcely populated. So that's why the regional areas or the states would always have lower expenses as far as livings are concerned, whereas the metro states like New York, California, Texas, especially Houston, etc., they are a little higher on the cost factor. The capital is Washington, D.C., towards extreme right, northeast, the East Coast, where we mentioned. That's where the president lives, and that's where the political reins are. Popular cities are many. We've just mentioned a few: California, New York, Chicago, Houston, Washington, D.C., etc. So, all those are very favorite of our international students. The national bird and animal are bald eagle and bison. The seasons of US and the time zones is something which you must understand before selecting the country. The summers are between June and August, like we have in India, and the autumns are between September and November, which is almost the best weather to visit US. Neither cold nor hot. But the winter, which is between December, February, and extends till April, actually goes quite chilly, especially in the East Coast, up US, which is the upper belt of US, sharing the border with Canada. The spring also is one of the best seasons to visit US between March and May. The country exponentially is so big geographically that it has nine zones, and each from east to west, the time difference is around 3.5 hours between the two states. Why US could be a great choice? Please feel free to type your answers in the chat box. We will happy to address and add to what it makes US a great option. There are some benefits of US listed here, but there are so many others. Even if we wanted to, we could not really quote it here. But US is having the most liberal system of education, which necessarily means that students can take civil engineering with a music majors. Students can take psychology with uh, definitely maybe a chemistry or a dance as majors. So all that is very flexible, available to students. That's why it is called the most liberal system of education. students go in for a 4 years bachelor's, include two majors, and finally get degree in both the majors. So it really depends on the choice. If the student studies a STEM course while he selects, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, he gets a stay back up to 3 years. Otherwise, the stay back is 12 months. So, in case students are going for STEM courses, you can get an extension of 12 plus 24 months, which is almost 3 years. World class research facilities are available at bachelor's and master's levels, PhD especially. The universities are almost 4,000 plus in number when it comes to America. Most of the universities are research oriented, and even at undergrad level, US is one of the only country which gives you amazing research opportunities being an undergrad student yourself. It is one of the largest economy, has agriculture, education, energy, healthcare, high tech, service industry, space explorations, etc. So, needless to say, US rules in some of the domains where the other countries are still making their pace. It's a very safe learning environment and absolutely cosmopolitan, multicultural environment. And the reason behind is that in a university of a good size, there can be students from 150 nationalities, making the whole cultural worth experiencing. Scholarships is something which I didn't mention and we will cover in the later slides that US is one of the only country to offer scholarships which can be from zero to full tuition fee waivers as well. Just to give you a little idea about the country comparisons, US is almost 11 to 25 lakhs in comparison to the other traditional countries we recruit for. The state universities can be as low as 10, 11 lakhs, and they can go as high as 25, 30, 40, 50 lakhs as well. The duration of the postgrad, which is the master's, is 2 years in US, and the undergrads in most cases is 4 years. While we have seen the students who are academically advanced can complete their education in 3 years' time as well. The English proficiency test, which in details I will cover in the next slides to come, is mandatory for post graduation, while a student who wishes to go for master admission or bachelor's admissions can get a waiver as well if he applies through us. The visa approval rates are amazing when it comes to USA. The interviews happen for all the students, which means the student, if he's aware of why is he going, that's the best way forward to get a positive interview results. So students should have complete details of the courses they're going, the university they're going, the expenses involved, what is their future plan after finishing the course. If those are there, the visas are absolutely nice and smooth. Our team prepares or helps in preparing for visas as well. The spouse visa approval, I've just mentioned it, but in US, unfortunately, uh, even if the spouses go with the students, if they want to, they cannot work part time or full time. The US education system, a bit, I would want to just highlight. So it is somewhat similar to what we have here in schools up till high school, which is this orange line. So you complete your 12th here and then we go for a bachelor's degree. Generally, associate degrees are the terms which are used for American education. We from India do not really promote them much. And the only reason is that we believe that there are high chances of visas when you go for bachelor's degree directly. Student definitely can go for transfer degrees when it comes to US. So you can definitely take in the first, second, or third year maximum if it is a transfer admission. You have done a decent education here from India, and then now you wish to go for a foreign degree and you want to complete. the last 2 years or last 1 year or last 3 years in US, definitely that's possible. And we have amazing associations with the universities where you can make that possible. Post that, they have a master's degree, which is duration between 1 or 2 years. There are law masters, which are 1 year. There are some MBAs and MS Finance courses also at great universities, which are 1 year in duration, but most programs are 2 years. Doctoral degrees or the PhDs comes henceforth after you complete a master's degree, you apply for a PhD. There are some professional courses like medicine, dentistry, veterinary, and law. We can separately discuss on those because those are not directly or easy available to international students as they have their own separate international test required or the licensing required or the degree background required. The types of institutes in US are broadly just two: the liberal arts universities, which are the combinations of private and public universities, more giving bachelor's education, and the universities which are research based, which is also a combination of public and private, but have courses until PhD or research available. There are community colleges where I was mentioning in the previous slide that associate degrees are very common way of going for higher education, especially in terms of students who are studying in US, especially the students who are born or have US citizenship. All of them go for associate degrees more, which we have seen that not much high chances of visas are there because those are just first 2 years of your graduation. And most of the times we see higher chances of visas when we go for complete full bachelor's degrees. Talking a bit about the intakes, January is the small intake, while September is the major intake. A lot of US universities do have May intake now, started for past few years, considering that the exam cycle in India varies from board to board and from state to state. So that's why we have now a few universities giving May and October, November intake as well. But of course, there are a lot of limitations on these intakes. So you can connect with us separately if you have some specific choices. But September majorly is the time when the student gets all the universities available for all the courses. We also see that there are a lot of scholarship chances when you apply for the major intakes, and also because of the availability, you would have more chances of getting accepted also. The spots which are available more will give you high probability of getting accepted to the same university. The timeline to apply is 8 to 12 months prior to the intake you wish to go. So if you're in the final year, that's the time you apply, or if you're in class 12th, that's the time you apply for US, especially for bachelor's and master's. Again, the structure of education a bit more clearly. Community college is something which we would want you to just maybe ignore. The universities are 4 years bachelor's program. We actually can get a 2.5 to 3 years of optional practical training, and then student can move on with graduation, the masters, and also avail another OPT after you finish the next course. So in total, what maybe we want to tell after this slide is that a lot of students come to us that they have different perceptions of why would we want to go US. So you can actually take a break after bachelor's, do your job, and then move on to the masters, or you complete your undergrad, go for job, and then go for masters, and then go for job again. Somebody who's interested for PhD can actually go for PhD as well. The types of English proficiency tests which are acceptable are many, but from India, we have seen technically IELTS, PT, and TOEFL works more, while there's another test which has come up very well because of COVID, the Duolingo. So IELTS is the test conducted by British Council and IDP. Validity for all the test is 2 years, and the band score is between 1.0 to 9.0. It works on the scale of zero point 0.5. The duration is 2.45 minutes for three modules. It has reading, writing, speaking, and listening. So the speaking happens on a separate day, separate time. So that makes IELTS complete. IELTS is also available computer based now with IDP. One can select that because that gives you easier date to give the test and also faster results in 3 to 5 days. Whereas the normal IELTS academic, the results are declared in 11 to 14 days. The PTE again is out of 90. A decent score in IELTS can be 6.5, can be a 62, but between 50 and 62, that's fine. And so approximately similar time duration for this test as well. TOEFL is a test which scores valid years. Score is 0 to 120. Each of the four modules is out of 30. So a decent score of 79 is expected for a bachelor's, and in some cases for masters, it is a score of 90. For some programs, especially the law, etc., a higher score of 100 is also expected by some universities. TOEFL can be registered online and you can give it at the Prometric Center. You can control sending of scores from the website. So everything is at computers hands away. This is just a sample of English. So we were just talking about the international standardized test, and we were just talking about the different tests. Followed by there are few tests which are more on academic grounds, like the SATs, GRE, GMAT, which are given at bachelor's level or master's level or for an MBA. Of course, US is one of the only country which requires these sets of international tests. The previous set which I talked about for IELTS, TOEFL or PTE, that is taken or accepted at all the countries, but only US would require necessarily one of these tests if a student requires to go for an undergrad degree or a postgraduate program as well. Different tests have different parameters. Basically, check for students' proficiency in English, which is called verbal, and mathematics, which is more uh, of quantitative reasoning skills. So the student is tested on English and mathematics basically. The scoring pattern for the SAT is out of 1600. A decent score of 1400 and above is accepted at the university. So this test particularly also helps students to get scholarships. Moving on with GRE, the test scores are out of 340. So once a student gives the GRE, the scores are valid for 5 years for all these tests, and a decent score is 310 and above for all the good schools. Similarly, GMAT is out of 800. A decent score is 600, 650 and above. So students get admissions and scholarships on the basis of these additional tests for the country which really acknowledges these tests. Just moving on and touching this slide a bit, which is more on pathways. So we always talk about the best and the bright students going for these countries. When it comes to the students who are mediocre, what happens to them? Or the students who are late, what happens with them? Or the student, they applied to the great universities, but unfortunately got rejected. So for all those categories, we have some pathway providers, which means they have easier entry criterias or the lower academic requirement, and they take students for their first year of education and move them to the university for their second year of education. This is not an extra time in the 4 years of bachelor's or the 2 years of master's, but given a handholding session along with a university class where students will have smaller class groups, better attention from the teacher, and a little more handholding in order to adjust into a US culture. The basic universities, we just would want to talk about a couple of them while in this presentation. As initially when I said universities are distributed in the East Coast or the West Coast, so East is towards right side, We have most of the Ivy Leagues situated there, whether that's Columbia, Cornell, or New York University. MIT is not an Ivy, but is situated there. So MIT, Harvard, they are based in the East Coast. So all in all, East Coast is a place which is more of student preferred destination. A lot of universities which gives admissions to international students, and there's a lot of variety of courses available, educational institutes available, good for anyone and everyone, public and private, all those combinations work. The universities in West, which is towards California, again, amazing sets of universities where University of California, Berkeley is, even Caltech, California Institute of Technology, California State Universities, multiple campuses. We have great partner institutes in Western side as well, namely Washington State, Cal State, University of California, Riverside, which is one of the amazing universities for their MBA and MS Finance programs. Oregon State and San Jose, which is in the Silicon Valley, gives 97% of placements to the students who wish to go for their IT or computer science related courses, and get almost 100% placements. And the starting salary at Silicon Valley can be around $80,000 to $100,000 per annum. Similarly, we've got a couple of universities listed here in the slides, which are from South, whether that's Texas, Louisiana, or Georgia, which is in Atlanta. Midwest, which is the central part of US, we've got amazing universities, which are University of Illinois, Chicago, Kent State, Colorado State, Embry-Riddle, which again is the name students who look for aeronautical engineering programs or anything related to space. Great mechanical degree programs as well. So in fact, Embry-Riddle has campuses in Arizona, Florida, and also in Singapore for ones who may not want to go to US, but they can actually make their way to US through a Singapore campus as well. Florida also is one of the good tourism destination, but great for studies as well. So South Florida, Central Florida, North Florida, a lot of universities there which give great courses to students if they wish to choose. We covered in the first day when we were doing the comparison chart, the popular courses, which is engineering, MBA, IT, business, pure sciences, public health. It also may have a music, dance, fashion. A lot of students nowadays are picking up those programs. Very different selections also international students from India now are making in the field of liberal arts, anthropology, social sciences, women and gender studies. So these are the courses which may or may not have great faculties also here in India, set aside jobs. So US gives us the combinations which can be rarest of rare, but still very, very promising future. We come to a few of our last slides because this is a very comprehensive application process for the international students as far as US is concerned. So our team at MapMyStudy, along with advisors, we are happy to help you with university selection and profiling. We have a set format which we would be sharing with all of you during the training and also after the training as a part of your starter kit. Whenever you wish to have a student and you want to ask anything, you can always fill that form on behalf of the student or get it filled from the student, share it with us along with the documents. We'll be happy to assess of the choice of the country he has expressed, or the courses he has expressed, or any other details if the student wishes to know. Once the universities are finalized, our admission team helps you with the application form and fee details, etc. All the correspondence information required for filing an application is given to you. The students can go through it, either apply online, or if it can be a hard copy of application, you can scan the document, send it to our team, and we can do the applications in the cases where it is our portal, which is the mode of online application, or we do it going on online. So all this would be explained while we send application form details to you. There are other things also which are supporting material required as SOP and LOR. In the next slide, would explain about what exactly is the statement of purpose and the letter of references, which at master's level is absolutely important. But at undergrad level, a lot of universities would have some small essays to write, and that's it. The standardized test, which we talked in the previous slides, like the English proficiency of IELTS, TOEFL, PTE, or the SAT or GRE, GMAT, whatsoever is the level of the student he is looking for. The admission offer, or in US, the next step after you are offered admission is called an I-20. So we help you with the I-20 processing, what documents are required, and finally, the visa team helps you with the service and the visa process. There are several parameters for selecting institution, and on day 2 we did talk about that when my MD was talking about how exactly we can select the universities. So we have broadly categorized a few benchmarks which students and families look forward to. So we have seen that they look forward to geographic area, what students' academic and career goals are, the background of education. If it is a computer science or IT related degree, generally you would see students talking about Silicon Valley or the Western Coast or Chicago or maybe Texas. But if it is liberal arts, maybe more related to finance, MBA, even New York works very well, Washington, DC works very well because they have a lot of internship options on those sides. Some students also make their decision on the basis of the scholarships provided. So the scholarships are broadly categorized into merit and need based. And we're very happy and proud to state here that a lot of our students each year gain thousands of dollars of scholarships. So US is one of the only countries which gives you scholarships right from maybe a $2,000 to full tuition fee, and the full tuition fee at one of the universities can be $50,000. So the students, if they are meritorious, can get up to $50,000 every year. So that's the USP, one of the USPs at US. The standardized test again is the parameter also in few cases, though US now is becoming gradually test optional because of pandemic one and also because of its own changes in the policies that they believe that maybe students who have not taken SAT still can excel in their bachelor's admission. So those are case to case basis. You can always connect with us in case you need to further discuss. But broadly, if they have these tests, that means they distinguish themselves from the other peers who are applying from India. And honestly, with background we come from, we have seen that a lot of Chinese and Indians apply to these countries. So that is why you are among the competitive pool. So these tests will distinguish that only 10% of the students, if sit for the test, that means you have already beaten 90% of the lot. Great resume, which actually proves diversity, is also extremely important when it comes to international application. The statement of purpose is definitely one key area. This slide broadly talks about it. You don't need to really note it. My team is going to upload everything once we have the session ended today. The SOPs generally should address the topic of why the student wishes to go abroad for a course of an MBA or a master's in computer engineering or maybe aeronautical engineering. It should not be a copied idea. That is very, very important. Plagiarism is a crime in almost all the countries, and US by far has the highest checkpoint for checking plagiarized documents, and the students are not pardoned if they use one. So anything available online is useless for students. That's why they have to write their own success path and why do they wish to go abroad. With us, we give you the guidelines. You can always share it with the students, and I'm sure few of you already are working in this domain for long. So you may have your own, ideas for how to write a great statement of purpose. But yes, each student is unique, so hence each SOP has to be a different one. We advise students to do a proper research for the department the student applies to, and can always help him creating a flow in the SOP, and also check on the grammar uh, ticks, so that the grammatical errors are avoided. They don't expect students, those who are applying should have those. Get in touch with the alumni and the faculty is also one of the suggestions we keep giving to our students. Many of the students take this suggestion while the others may not. But then if the students have an idea of how and what alumni have gone through, that really helps them to relate, mention the same context in the essay they write for a university, also gives a first hand experience. The university professors also feel that, yeah, you've taken time to do the research and then you're writing an SOP or an essay. So hence you're a different student from the other lot who are applying. There are a lot of instances, we have seen it for ourselves, that students apply to 6 universities, use the same SOP, do not even bother to change the name of the university while they apply from an X to a Y university, having X mentioned in the Y as own also. So university feels that this is the biggest crime they have seen, but that's how students are. So at advisor level, I think we suggest you to keep an eye on the SOP. Of course, our team also can share inputs by first giving the guidelines, and two, when you finalize an SOP, our team of experts can go through it. Similar is the letter of references. So the academic performance scores are mentioned in the SOP, but if it gets a support letter from the person teaching, so a teacher, faculty, professor can be the recommendee. Also, an employer can be your recommendee. Anyone who talks about students' characteristics, achievements, and support him for the co-curricular activities he has done. Tell the university about the work, leadership skills, behavior skills of the student. That really is a great document, and the universities do take seriously. So the person who's giving recommendation is very important, not the designation, but what he writes for the student. So we again have sets of guidelines. We can share it with you at the time you need, and the students can help the teachers to write the recommendation later, because many of the times I have seen that teachers are happy to write or sign on any letter student brings in, especially if the student is a good student with the university or the school. Um, I would just want to spend a minute on this slide, because a lot of times you would have students, families asking you that what if I go for an education? What would I do after I finish my education? So we covered that broadly in the second day's event as well. So when we go for a 1 year or a 2 year study, which is at master's level, or a 3 years or a 4 years bachelor's, we get at least 12 months up to 36 months as a stay back. We can work during that time, and that's called the OPT. Once we apply for an OPT, we can get jobs, we can do the jobs, and the students have to file H1B. We do not or may not have the capacity to help students for H1B, but of course, there are a lot of people, those who do immigration, and we always suggest students to take help of attorney or a lawyer so that they can be guided rightly. But as far as we go, to apply for a green card in US is a very long time taking process. So in the days to come, when we do the other countries, we'll give you this comparison as well. So if someone is looking at a PR, permanent residency, the US is a far-fetched option, because a green card may take 8 to 14 years or maybe still more. The part-time work opportunities are almost similar to any country. So it is more on bachelor's and master's degree. When students go for, they can work 20 hours per week, and the public holidays or the summer breaks, with the permission, they can work 40 hours per week. The average salary or the wage is almost $12 in most states. It's state driven, so technically students may find it different from west to east or midwest to south. But broadly, it's $12 per hour. The time difference was not, maybe we wanted to just give an idea that if we need to go from India to New York, the time followed by is Eastern Daylight Timings. The distance between India and New York is roughly 11,700, $12,000, 12,000 kilometers. The distance of the flight, if we take a flight, which is now available as direct as well, it takes a little above 14 hours, and the time difference is 10 and 9.5 hours. So nowadays it is 9.5 hours because daylight saving is on, and hence the time differences in summers and winters generally vary with 1 hour. So Los Angeles on the west side is PDT, Pacific Daylight Timings, almost 17,000 kilometers from India. Flight generally is taking 15 to 19 hours. Same as Chicago, Denver, and Washington. So by this, we wanted to just give you an idea that if we travel from east side to west side, the time difference can be around 3.5 hours between the two states within US. So hence the size of US is so big that probably one needs to carefully choose a university, because if a student has a family at maybe Washington or California, we suggest him New York or Florida. It doesn't make sense. So that's why geography is very important. The lifestyles in US, on an average, we have seen, even if I talk about urban or suburban areas, technically the expenditure varies from a 700 to 1500 US dollars per month as far as living is concerned. Students end up spending more time during their first year generally, because that's the time they're making their base. Once they settle for at least one semester, they can actually look for cheaper accommodation, better living areas, and then they share also in order to save on their expenses. In most of the other places like the Los Angeles or New York City, the expenses can go as high as $1,500 to $2,000 as well in some areas if a student chooses to live in a condo and maybe prefers single living. So all that really depends on the state we choose. Sometimes the travel also makes it expensive because there are a lot of public transports available. Yet if you choose to travel by a cab or if you drive, that's expensive, but it's a mix. So roughly 700 to 1500 over a month's experience. The lot of choices of Indian foods are there in US, no problems. Absolutely, vegetarian food is available. Non-vegetarian food definitely is there. Even if somebody is lactose intolerant, all those special need food is also easily available. In fact, if a student knows how to cook, he can always get any spices he wishes to in the areas where most of the Indian communities live. For example, New Jersey, California, Chicago. So students get everything what is required to cook home cook Indian food, but also there are quite reasonable restaurants which can be taken into consideration if you don't want to cook. There are lunch services also available. Again, students can make their choices once they go there, like the food or the taste, and then depending on that, they can start exploring. But they will not miss home foods most of the times if they are living in areas where the Indian community is already there. This is one of the last slides I have for today. So this is the assessment sheet I was talking about. We would obviously share all these documents with you. This is a Word document shared with all of you. If you could just enter the details, it is a typable format. You can just send us the details of the student, the 10th and the 12th and the graduation if he's done, and course of interest, if you could just highlight that, and then the country. Below are the test scores. So if you can mention most details, it becomes easy for us to help you with the right options. So this again becomes a very handy tool for you. This is shared along with the documents. Our team can help you with the assessment almost in 24 to 48 hours when you send us the profile. The next training by my colleague, Ms. Swati. That is for the admissions today, which means how should you apply? Once you have seen the university's list, student has finalized which university to apply. So that's the team who's going to help you with the processing of those applications. So we are ready, Swati, if you're ready.
Hello?
Yes, Swati.
Yes, I'll just share my screen.
Ji.
Hello everyone, I'm Swati, Senior Admission Officer at MapMyStudy, and today I'll be telling you about US admission process. There are two ways to process an application in US depending upon the university requirement. One is paper application and the other is online application. For paper application process, you need to provide us completely filled application form along with original scanned documents of applicant. For undergraduate application, we require 10th and 12th mark sheet and passing certificate, English proficiency result and passport copy. For a postgraduate application, we require bachelor degree mark sheets and passing certificate, 10th and 12th mark sheet and passing certificate, English proficiency result, CV, SOP, LORs, work experience documents if applicable, and passport copy. We will then assess the application and process it within 48 hours. Then university will issue the outcome of the application within their turnaround time. Few universities that follow paper application process are George Mason University, Oregon State University, UMass Boston, University of Illinois Chicago, Fontbonne University, etc. Next is online application process. The counselor will fill and submit online application on university website. Then provide us the original scanned documents of the applicant for our records. The documents required for the application are as mentioned below, respectively for undergrad and postgrad application. We will then coordinate with the university for application outcome and further process. Few universities that follow online application process are San Jose State University, Northeastern University of North Texas, Kent State University, etc. Most of the US universities have application fee, but for few of them we have application fee waiver. For example, Northeastern University has an application fee of $75, but if you use our agency code INDMMS while doing the application online, you'll get the application fee waiver. Similarly, for Northern Arizona University, Shoreline Group, Into Group, Study Group, we have application fee waivers. Indian bachelors, 15 or 16 years. So most of the universities in US require 16 years of education, but few of them accept 15 years of education. So the difference between 15 and 16 years of education is that 12 plus 3, that is, if a student has done a BCom or a BA, a 3-year degree after 12th, it is considered as 15 years of education. But if a student has done a degree like BTech, which is of 4 years after 12th, then it calculates as 16 years of education. Some universities accept 15 years of education, like Kent State University, University of Cincinnati, Adelphi University, Northeastern, DePaul University. And like I said, majority of the universities accept 16 years of education. Application assessment. So the mentioned are the application assessment factors on the basis of which we assess an application. Eligibility is assessed on basis of academics and English proficiency, relevancy of course applied, is educational background or change of streams, gap in studies. 3 or 4 months of gap is acceptable, but if a student has 6 months or more gap, we require documentary proof or SOP. Work experience, if a student has work experience, we require the documents. Extracurricular certificates are required if applicable. So below mentioned is the process flow. Once the university has been finalized, please add the application form along with the original scanned documents of the student on CRM. The documentation is mentioned below, and there are some of the supporting documents we require for US universities like SOP, CV, 2 or 3 LORs. You need to assign the application to Mr. Yogesh Sharma, and his CRM ID is Del_Yogesh. We would request you to please upload all the documents in single PDF if possible. We will then process the application within 48 hours. And then the university will issue the outcome within their turnaround time. After we process an application to the university, we either get an offer letter for the student or a rejection. If we get an offer letter, then student needs to show funds as per university requirement, and then the university will issue an I-20, which is a confirmation of an acceptance. So here are some sample of the reference documents we have made for you to know the process of the universities. These are some samples of application form. On your left, you can find the correct application form, which is completely filled, and on the right is an incomplete application form, which leads to delay in the application. Backlog or failed. What is a backlog? Backlog is used to refer to the number of failed courses that haven't yet been cleared. What is a backlog certificate? A backlog certificate is a sheet issued by your academic institution that has details about your backlogs. So you need to provide us the backlog certificate of the student wherever applicable. Here is on your left a sample of an offer letter, and on your right a sample of I-20. These are point of contacts for you. For queries, Tanuja Chauhan; for applications, Yogesh Sharma; and for more concerns or assistance, you can contact Manisha Bhatti.
Thank you.
This was all from my side.
Thank you, Swati. So Alok, whenever you're ready, we are ready.
Hi everyone. This is Alok, team lead Visa. So let me share the presentation. Yeah, hi. So this is my presentation. So let me get started. Today we are going to understand the US visa process. So basically just I would like to start with a very brief introduction. So in USA we have three different visa categories. That is F visa category, which is for the full-time students at an accredited college, university, or seminary. So we will talk about F1 or F visa category only, that is the student visa. Apart from that, M and J visa categories are also there, which are meant M basically meant for vocational students and J for research scholars. but we are moreover focused on F visa process. So let's get started with the F visa process, that is, which is also known as F1 visa process. So once we receive I-20 from the university, so we'll proceed to the next step, that is, we'll pay the service fee, that is service I-901 fee of 350 US dollar. And once we have paid the service fee, so we'll just move to US Travel Docs website, which is the major website for US visa application. So we'll fill DS 160, which is a non-immigrant online visa application form, and we'll submit it electronically. And once we have filled this DS 160 form, we'll receive an alphanumeric bar, and we just need to save that for us. Once we have completed with DS 160, we'll proceed to next step, which is register and create a profile online on the CEAC website, from where we'll actually schedule and pay the visa fees. So once we have created and log in into the profile, so we'll pay the visa fee of US dollar 160. And once paid the visa fee, we'll make or schedule the appointment. Uh, Here, I would like to make clear, we need to make two appointments. We need to schedule two appointments, one with the visa application center and another with the embassy or consulate. So always make remember that we'll make first appointment with visa application center, and then we'll make the embassy or consulate. So there should be a limitation of 1 day at least. Like if we schedule appointment with visa application center, so it must be prior to the appointment with embassy or consulate for interview. So once we have completed with biometric session, we'll just next proceed to the interview session with the consulate or embassy. And once student has done with these uh, two things, that is the interview and prior to that biometric, student will wait for the visa decision. So let's come to next slide. So here we'll understand what actually we need to uh, do and what documents actually we require filling DS 160 form. So whenever we fill DS 160 form and submit it electronically to the Department of State website, we need following documents handy, that is passport, I-20 from the institution or university, parent details. Uh, we require must PAN card copy of both parents, as we need to fill the details accordingly. Academic and work documents of the applicant or student. Then two references details, which includes the name, address, contact number, email ID. Uh, and we need to make sure that these two references need not to be from the family. So once we have filled this form, we need these documents carrying at the embassy or consulate. That is a valid passport with a validity date at least 6 months beyond the period of a stay, and photograph needs to be less 6 months, so it not need not to be more than 6 months old, and the specification must be of 51 mm uh, width and height. Then original mark sheet, provisional certificates from 10th to highest, score sheet of exams like TOEFLs, IELTS, GRE, GMAT. Then we required a printed copy of DS 160, which we have filled electronically and submitted. One more thing I would like to make clear here, while filling DS 160, we need to take care that all the fields or all the information we have provided is correct, because if we provided any incorrect information, so definitely that will delay the process, as well as that can create somewhere problem for the student. Then interview appointment letter in original and copy. We required Form I-20 sent by the institutions where a student is going to study, visa fees, service fees, payment confirmation receipt, bank statement for at least 6 months showing that student have enough fund to pay for the first year expenses, which includes the tuition fee and the living expenses. Funds could be in the name of parents or guardian is fine, no problem in that. Income proof of sponsors are required, basically ITR and Form 16 for 3 years. So these are the documents which required for F1 visa application. Then we have one more document, that is self affidavit. This is not meant for embassy or consulate. This is for our organization. This document needs to be on a notary paper. Photo needs to be affixed, photo of student as well as of parents, and respective photographs needs to be cross signatured. Then details should be filled according to the documents. Student also requires to read the content and then sign it. Name, place, date, country, these are the must required field. So this is the self affidavit.